Hey guys, and welcome to another Fushby video. So as promised, we have Iron Tombs, the first Defiant dungeon. Now, after about 5 minutes of looking in general, we're able to find a group pretty easily. So moving forward in release, with the mass amount of players flowing through the game, you guys should be able to get into this dungeon quite easily. So the cool thing about the dungeon, first of all, our first, I guess, enjoyment of joining the dungeon was myself and Anthony were actually nowhere near the instance portal when we joined this group. Now, the cool thing was, is as soon as one person entered the dungeon instance, it actually prompted for a summon. So it automatically summoned all players to the dungeon. Now, of course, if you're in the middle of something, it does give you that option. Are you ready to go to the dungeon? And you say yes, and then bang, you teleported straight there. So the next major dungeon thing that we wanted to test, does this game have markings and does this game use CC, crowd control abilities, for people who don't know the abbreviation? So the answers are, and we found out very quickly, yes and yes. So as you see here, I'm actually marking a target with number 1, and I've prompted Anthony to CC number 1. He applies a polymorph ability, and we continue killing the mob that I've taunted to the group. Now, Anthony, how long does that polymorph effect last for?
Polymorph lasts for 30 seconds. It doesn't have a long cooldown, about 5 to 10 seconds, so you can keep on polymorphing, chain polymorphing if you want to.
Cool. And I mean, look, I guess if there's ever a resist after an initial polymorph, I mean, that's just the group. You just got to handle it, or someone else needs to be on their toes and polymorph. So, again, I mean, this game and pulling does require strategies. And I mean, look, you could probably get by without polymorphing. You could probably pull 3 mobs without a drama, but I'd highly recommend polymorphing one of every 3 mobs. It just makes life that little bit easier. The damage output in this dungeon and just well, off any mobs and bosses in general is quite high. I mean, I noticed throughout the dungeon I was taking what felt like to be a lot of damage and found myself at low HP or even dead at some times. So I highly recommend use your CC as much as you can, and when you can, don't be afraid to use it. I mean, it's been given to your class for a reason, so I would definitely use it when you get the opportunity or when a tank marks it up. If you join a party and you are a tank, always ask your group who can CC, and if you can CC and your tank asks you that, please, or doesn't even ask you that, maybe just prompt them and say, look, I can CC, just mark it with this number, and it will save the day. So what you guys can see here is I've accidentally just pulled the boss with a pack. This is the first boss. Unfortunately, this is a white, so I'm not going to explain anything at all. Um, I just want to show you guys though the reason why I've kept this in the video is even though I've died, I'm going to release, and the cool thing is I don't have to do a massive corpse run to get back to the dungeon. I mean the graveyard is right next to the instance, so I die, just a quick run, and I'm straight back in. So back to the first boss. Now, just going to pull this first boss here. Now, look, in all honesty, this boss doesn't do anything special. I guess it's more of just an introduction. The only thing he does do is, as you're working your way to him, he's constantly taunting you and talking about some resurrection or something like that. I really wasn't paying attention, sorry, so I couldn't give you a rundown of exactly what he was saying. But I mean, it just kind of adds to the feeling of this dungeon. I mean, look, we've entered this tomb. It's infested with undead. It's all busted up. It's there's spider webs everywhere, and it's all zombies and ugh, it's all that kind of stuff. And you got this guy constantly talking over everything, going, ugh. I mean, it just adds to the environment, and it makes it feel so epic. I mean, I had the feeling through the whole dungeon this was such an epic thing. I'll get your take on it in a second, Anthony. I just want to show you healers out there quickly, or tanks even. At the end of this boss fight, he actually applies or throughout the whole boss fight even, he actually applies a debuff to the tank, which will cause that tank to continually take damage until it wears off. So you'll notice in a second, I actually died to this ability because we actually didn't realize it was on. So again, instead of doing a corpse run, I have the ability to do what's called a soul walk. Now, Soul Walk releases me from my body, but allows me just to run in the general vicinity of where I died for a period of time. So once that buff wears off me, I'm straight back into my corpse or straight back into my body, sorry, and on half HP with no resources, and I'm ready to go again. So, I mean, Anthony, I mean, what's your feeling on the dungeon? I mean, did you get the same feeling as me? Like the amount of, I mean, the amount of just general noises through the dungeon, the ambient sound, and I mean, the graphics of the whole thing, and how kind of you kind of feel like you're in a place that isn't meant to be happy. I mean, did you get that epic feeling when you were in there?
Yeah, they put a lot of detail in this dungeon. I hope it's the same for all the dungeons, but as Mark said, the ambient sound is just unbelievable. With the boss constantly talking about finding his king before you get to him, it's just got a really creepy feeling in this dungeon. And I guess that's what they actually tried to strive for. Just love the environment in it and just crazy detail.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to play a dungeon with your sound turned up. I mean, it just makes it that much more worth it. Um, heaps of other cool features that well, we keep saying throughout our reviews and our tutorials that this game has taken features from other games and implemented in this one to give it that like full package, I guess you could say. Now, I mean, recently in World of Warcraft they've introduced in instance maps, and there you go. I've just pulled one up, and it even shows me my quest objectives where they are, so I know where to complete them. And I mean, this feature alone, I mean, help just generally running yourself around a dungeon you've never done before. You kind of get a good feeling about where you need to go and where you need to be. Um, Super handy. And then, like another thing that they've introduced here is like in dungeon quests. So when you first zone in, you get a quest, and that quest will last you through the whole dungeon, and you can pick up extras along the way. So now we're about to face the second boss. Now the second boss is it was a little bit boring for the first phase. The first phase, um, three individual statues summon will summon what the statue is of. So it will summon that NPC, and then once you kill all three, they all spawn again together. Now I think generally tanking this one. As long as you know how to control three ads, it's something I really want to cover in a minute regarding tanking multiple mobs or even healing through a tough damage phase. There's a couple of things you need to know about that before you start just pulling anything and everything and using abilities as soon as they're off cooldown. Um, I mean, Anthony, I mean, as a healer in this dungeon, your mage healing spec. I mean, how did you feel in this boss fight?
Boss fight was pretty simple. It was a lot harder, a lot easier, sorry, than the first one. When the three came out, it was more about you controlling them just to make sure you were the only one who was taking damage, just because I don't have much AoE healing to go around. So you took care of them pretty quickly, so we didn't have much problems with the boss. And it's so interesting just try to heal with damage output. So sometimes you can put out a heal and then the target dies and you really need to get a heal out, but you need to select another enemy to heal them with. That's the biggest thing I was actually struggling with throughout the dungeon.
Yeah, and look, this brings me back to what I was saying before, is that I mean, healing for or Anthony's healing spec anyway. So we're just going to use that as the example at the moment. But I mean, unless it's the ability where he damages something, and it will then allow me to get healed for my damage output. His other heals have actually cooldowns on them, so he needs to choose when he's going to heal me and if it's the right time to heal me. Because if there's about to be a large damage increase, he really needs to save those big heals for when that damage increase comes. So something to keep your eyes on. I mean, the same thing comes for tanking as well. I mean, I've only got at the moment anyway, early in the game, I've only got one like cleave ability and one AoE, I guess, taunt ability. Now, these abilities also have cooldowns, so I need to manage them accordingly. At the moment, I don't seem to have really a damage reduction ability. I'm sure something like that will come in time. The only thing I do have is like a lay on hands kind of effect where I can heal myself to full, which of course is obviously super handy. So the reason why we spent so much time in this boss's room is there was actually a quest for us to drag these ghosts out of where they were into this light. We have to tether with them using a quest item. Pretty simple stuff, and like you guys will figure it out as you do it. So here we are actually approaching what is the last boss fight. This is the chick we've been chasing throughout the whole dungeon. She yet still manages to evade us. But you can see a portal across the wall, across the gap there. She portals down. She actually summons this big demon-looking thing. Um, you would have noticed that we have skipped a fair bit of trash also through this dungeon. Um, I feel that showing you guys every pull wasn't really necessary. Again, you just watch what you pull and how much you pull, and CC when you can. So making your way to this last boss is actually quite fun. Unfortunately, we do have an incident here where I wipe, or I die, sorry. The group stays alive, but they're able to continue without me, and this is the reason why. Now, you come down these stairs, and there's a whole bunch of these like shadow shade things. You can just pull them one at a time and kill them, but the problem is that you're in the darkness, and they will keep spawning. So we just had a second one spawn on the group there. Now, someone in the party has obviously either done this before or seen it done before because he advises us tank them at the lights. So here you can see I'd actually drag this guy back to the light. The light lights up and the mob actually takes increased damage and doesn't hit any less, but takes increased damage. He was able to be killed a lot quicker. And I mean, these are elites. So as you can see here, I'm going to go in. I'm a bit cocky here because I think, oh, you know what, this light's just going to kill him. I pull too many. They're still doing the same damage output, and the light took a little bit to turn on there, and I die. Now, just as an example, I've stayed in my body here so you guys can see. I mean, the group is able to keep going and survive this even without me because the mobs have that little HP. They're concentrating their DPS, and they're able to get them down quickly. So look, what you're going to see here, I'm gonna skip the run back to my body and skip past that room. We've seen enough of it. We're actually making our way up to the last boss here. Um, look, I mean, all in all, so far, I rate this dungeon pretty highly. What about yourself, Anthony?
Yeah, excellent dungeon. It's a bit boring. First time, obviously, going in there, just seeing how the healing and tanking will go. But it was a really fun dungeon and a fun place to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, the good thing is all the trash pulls you do, they can't just be AoE spammed. They need to be pulled at a group at a time, controlled, if possible. So, I mean, I rate this really high. I think the amount of healing that's required, the amount of control in the group that's required. Top. This is just a top dungeon, and so far it's a top grouping. I guess we call it a grouping mechanic, I guess. So, thumbs up to thumbs up to Rift for the first dungeon. I really enjoyed this one. So this is the last boss. Sorry, he has a frontal conal or frontal stomp. Now, the guy who gives you the initial quest actually comes along here and tells you to jump in his, I guess, his safety. He's got like a little safe zone for you. He tells you to jump in it, so you don't take any damage from this large explosion. You jump in it, you back out, you get out of it, turn the boss away. All in all, pretty simple. I didn't really take too much damage through this boss fight. So far I've seen my health really hasn't dropped below 50%. So yeah, look, I mean that's really the end of the end of the dungeon, guys. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, is there anything you want to add, Anthony, about the dungeon?
Yeah, if they definitely need to introduce something into the dungeon finder. We couldn't find anything about it at the moment, so it was a bit annoying trying to find a group in general just because someone might be in the city in a different channel. So that's just one downside I find anyway with dungeons.
Yeah, and I mean, just so you guys see, once you finished your instance quest, you don't actually need to run back to the start of the instance to hand in your quest. You see, I've got this weird, like, square in the top of my screen or diamond in the top of my screen. I didn't actually realize at this point, but in the middle of that diamond, there's actually a loot bag. Now, if to get your loot, you just need to click on, or to get your hand in your quest. Sorry, you need to simply just click on that little icon, complete your quest, and really. I mean, that's the end of it. I mean, that's the whole dungeon. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this dungeon. Again, look, this was the last video we did record in beta stage 5. So, as soon as stage 6 starts, we will progress into the next zone, get some more footage, and hopefully some really cool features that the game's added or fixed or anything like that through the dungeon. Um, well, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, we do have plenty more footage to release on other games, and we're also opening up a new segment soon for the best co-op games you can play with your mates, either at LAN parties or online through Hamachi or any of the other VPN applications. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget, rate, subscribe, and recommend.